aliens disclosure. UFO 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 aliens disclosure. Let's go.
Okay, so UFOs, right. It's like everyone's talking about them now.
It's true. It's definitely having a moment.
Yeah, with Congresswoman Mace and that UFO hearing coming up on November 13th, it's kind of hard to ignore.
It really is. Especially with all these whistleblowers like David Grush
Oh, yeah.
talking about recovered alien tech and all that. It's wild.
Wild is an understatement. I feel like we're living in a sci-fi movie.
I know, right?
Eh.
But hey, that's what we're here to break down, isn't it?
Exactly. To sort through all these UFO sightings and reports and try to figure out what's real and what's not. You know, you sent me a bunch of articles and reports to get ready for this deep dive, and honestly, some of this stuff is seriously freaky.
Oh yeah, there's some pretty mind-blowing stuff out there. What's really interesting, though, is that we're not just dealing with blurry photos and, like, shaky videos anymore.
Yeah, that's true. It feels different this time.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've got actual Navy pilots reporting encounters. We've got government reports acknowledging that something is going on. And even the scientific community is starting to take it seriously.
No kidding. It's not just like your stereotypical UFO enthusiasts anymore. Like, we're talking about NASA scientists analyzing UFO videos.
Exactly. And that's what makes this moment so fascinating. There's a convergence happening. Credible witnesses, official acknowledgement, and now science is stepping in.
So where do we even begin with all of this? I mean, there's so much to unpack.
Well, why don't we start with those recent sightings in southern Arizona?
Oh yeah, the ones with the triangular formation of lights. I read about those.
Right, those ones. Multiple witnesses in different locations, all describing the same thing. These lights were moving in ways that just don't make sense for any conventional aircraft.
Triangular formations, huh? That's giving me some serious Area 51 vibes.
It's spooky, isn't it? And it's not just a one-off thing either. Similar sightings have been reported in that region all year.
So these people weren't like UFO hunters or anything, right? They just stumbled across this.
That's what makes their accounts so compelling. These are just everyday people going about their lives, and then bam, they see something that completely flips their reality upside down.
You know what else I read about? That former Navy pilot, Ryan Graves.
Oh yeah, Ryan Graves. His story is wild.
He was talking about seeing these weird objects like almost every day off the coast of Jacksonville.
That's right. He and his fellow pilots were training in FA-18 Super Hornets, and they were constantly encountering these UAPs.
UAPs.
Yeah, unidentified aerial phenomena. That's the official term now.
Okay, UAPs. So they were seeing these UAPs all the time.
Almost daily for about 2 years. And these weren't just quick glimpses either. They described these objects appearing out of nowhere, hovering silently, and then zipping off at speeds that would make your head spin.
And wasn't there a video footage of one of these encounters? Something called the gimbal UFO?
There is. The gimbal footage was captured by an infrared camera on one of those FA-18s, and it shows an object rotating in a way that just defies our understanding of physics.
I think I've seen that video online. It's pretty freaky.
It is, and what's even crazier is that Graves has said this wasn't a one-time thing for them. They were seeing these UAPs on a regular basis.
Wow, okay. But what about that other incident, the Tic Tac UFO back in 2004? That one really blew up on the internet.
Oh yeah, the Tic Tac UFO. That's another case that's hard to dismiss.
Yeah.
You had multiple Navy pilots and radar operators tracking this thing, and it was moving in ways that seemed impossible. Like it would drop thousands of feet in an instant, then shoot off at incredible speeds, all without making a sound.
It's like, okay, one blurry photo or shaky video I can maybe understand, but when you've got trained observers, radar data, and even military footage, all pointing to something strange, it's hard to just ignore it, you know?
You're right, and that's what makes these cases so compelling. We're not dealing with just one piece of evidence, but a convergence of evidence from credible sources, and it's forcing us to rethink what we think we know.
It makes you wonder what else is out there that we just haven't seen yet.
That's the big question, isn't it?
So where does the Pentagon fit into all of this? They've been pretty quiet about UFOs for years.
They have, but even they've had to acknowledge that something unexplained is happening. Remember that 63-page report they released earlier this year?
The one that basically said, we don't know what these things are, but they're not ours. I remember that. Wasn't exactly a smoking gun, though.
True, but it was more nuanced than that. They did offer some possible explanations, like maybe some sightings were drones, weather balloons, or even advanced foreign aircraft.
Okay, sure, but then what about the rest of them?
Well, that's the interesting part. They admitted that a lot of cases remained unexplained.
Wait, so they're saying there's stuff flying around in our skies that they can't identify?
Exactly, and that's what I find so intriguing about this whole thing. It's this blend of skepticism and open-mindedness. They're essentially saying, we don't have all the answers, but we're not ruling anything out.
That's definitely a step up from the old "it's just swamp gas" explanation. So are they basically saying aliens are a possibility?
They're not quite using the A word yet, but the fact that they're admitting to unexplained phenomena and acknowledging data limitations, well, it opens the door to all sorts of possibilities.
So they're keeping the mystery alive, even if they're not ready to give us concrete answers.
Exactly. And what's even more interesting is that the Pentagon's not alone in this. Even the scientific community is starting to get involved now.
Really? I always thought scientists were pretty skeptical about UFOs.
They have been, but there's been a shift recently. The amount of credible evidence is growing, and there's more pressure from the public, and even from within the government, for the scientific community to take this seriously.
So are they actually studying UFOs now?
They are. NASA, for example, has put together a team of scientists from different fields. Physicists, astronomers, aerospace engineers, they're all studying UAPs.
Wow, NASA getting involved is a big deal. What are they focusing on specifically?
One of the key things they're looking at is something called electromagnetic signatures. You see, everything emits a unique electromagnetic signature, whether it's a plane, a bird, even a weather balloon. It's like a fingerprint.
Okay, so they're trying to get a scientific fingerprint of these UFOs.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this. We're moving beyond speculation. We're starting to use rigorous scientific methods to try to understand this phenomenon.
I can see why everyone's so interested in this now. We've got credible witnesses, we've got the Pentagon admitting they don't know everything, and now NASA's on the case. Feels like we're on the verge of some major breakthroughs.
It really does.
So what else should we be paying attention to? What else is out there that's important to this?
Well, one of the most interesting areas of research is the analysis of UFO footage. They're using advanced image processing and all sorts of analytical techniques, looking for patterns, anomalies, anything that could shed light on how these objects are moving.
Yeah, and what they might be made of, right?
Exactly. It's like forensic science for UFOs.
You know, I actually watched that Novia documentary, What Are UFOs, that you recommended. It was amazing to see how they're using all this high-tech stuff to analyze these sightings.
Oh, it's a great documentary.
Yeah.
Really shows you how seriously they're taking it now.
They had astrophysicists, aerospace engineers, intelligence analysts, everyone.
It really is a multidisciplinary effort now. And they're not just looking at videos either. They're studying radar data, pilot testimonies, even electromagnetic signatures like we talked about earlier.
Right, and remember that tic-tac UFO footage? The way it was zipping around, making those crazy turns. It was like something straight out of a video game.
Well, that incident is a perfect example of what has scientists so puzzled. The object was tracked on radar, seen by multiple experienced pilots, and caught on infrared camera. And what they're finding is that these UAPs exhibit flight characteristics that just shouldn't be possible.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, the acceleration, for one. We're talking about objects that can go from 0 to hypersonic speeds in an instant with no visible means of propulsion.
And no sonic booms either, right? I mean, something moving that fast should create a shockwave.
Exactly, and that's another mystery. Despite these extreme maneuvers, these UAPs don't seem to generate sonic booms. It's as if they're somehow defying the laws of aerodynamics.
Okay, now you're just messing with me. Are you saying these things are breaking the laws of physics?
It's not that they're breaking the laws necessarily, but rather that they might be operating under principles that we don't yet fully understand.
So like new physics, stuff we haven't even discovered yet.
Potentially. It's possible that we're witnessing physics beyond our current scientific models.
I always thought the idea of faster-than-light travel or warping space-time was pure science fiction, but now I'm not so sure.
It's amazing, isn't it? Science is constantly pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible. And the UFO phenomenon is really challenging our understanding of the universe.
So, if it's not some secret government technology and it's not misidentification, what are we left with? Are we really talking about alien spacecraft?
That's the big question, and I don't think anyone has a definitive answer yet. But I think it's important to keep an open mind and consider all possibilities.
Okay, I'm trying to keep an open mind here, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. Couldn't some of these sightings just be, like, really advanced drones or experimental aircraft? stuff that the public just doesn't know about.
That's a fair point, and there are probably some cases where that could be the explanation. But a lot of these sightings involve characteristics that go far beyond any conventional aircraft, even the most advanced ones we have.
So you're saying even our top secret black budget projects wouldn't be capable of this?
That's the conclusion that many experts are reaching. The physics just don't add up. And if it were secret government tech, you'd think they'd be more concerned about keeping it under wraps.
Right, it's not like they're trying to hide it anymore. It seems like the opposite is happening. There's a real push for transparency now.
You're absolutely right. And that brings us to another important aspect of all this, the UAP Disclosure Act.
Oh yeah, the UAP Disclosure Act. I remember reading about that. It's basically trying to force the government to declassify all its UFO files, right?
That's the gist of it. This act, if passed, would create a whole new office in the government dedicated to overseeing the collection and analysis of UAP data, and it would establish a clear process for declassifying that information and making it public.
So basically, people are fed up with all the secrecy and want the government to come clean.
Exactly. There's a growing feeling that the public has a right to know what's going on.
Do you think this act will actually pass? And what kind of impact could it have?
It's hard to say for sure if it'll pass, but the fact that it's even being considered is significant. It shows how much the conversation has changed. And if it does pass, the impact could be huge. Imagine having access to decades of classified data, witness testimonies, maybe even recovered materials.
Wow, that would be a game changer. It's like opening Pandora's box.
It really could be. And that's one of the reasons why this upcoming congressional hearing is so important.
Right, the hearing, with all these whistleblowers coming forward, and the government being pressured to be more transparent, it feels like we're on the edge of something big.
It certainly does.
Do you think this hearing could actually lead to some major revelations?
It's definitely possible. With people like David Grush talking about recovered alien technology and the growing pressure for transparency, this hearing could be a pivotal moment in UFO history.
I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm also a little skeptical. I mean, the government has been dodging questions about UFOs for so long, it's hard to believe they'll suddenly change their tune.
I understand your skepticism. It's healthy to be cautious. But something has shifted in recent years. The stigma around UFOs is fading, and more people are taking it seriously.
Well, I think the one thing that could really convince the skeptics is hard evidence, something concrete, something that can't be explained away as a weather balloon or a flock of birds.
I agree. And who knows, maybe that evidence is out there just waiting to be found. Or maybe it's already in someone's possession, tucked away in a classified file somewhere.
I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. But all this talk about unexplained phenomena, government secrecy, and potential alien encounters, it makes you wonder, what if we're not alone?
It's a profound question, isn't it? And it's one that has haunted humanity for centuries. As we continue to investigate this mystery, we might just find ourselves closer to the answer than we think.
Okay, this is way more intense than I was expecting. But before we go full X-Files here, I want to shift gears a bit. We've talked a lot about the evidence, the investigations, the scientific analysis, but what about the people at the heart of this, the people who claim to have seen these UFOs? What do their stories tell us?
You know, you're right. It's easy to get lost in the data and all the technical stuff.
It is. But we can't forget about the human side of it.
Exactly. We're talking about real people, real experiences.
Just like those witnesses in Arizona we talked about earlier.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Or the pilots who saw that tic-tac UFO.
Their stories are more than just data points, you know.
Absolutely. They offer a glimpse into the human impact of all this.
The psychological and emotional impact of encountering something so strange.
And those stories can be pretty unsettling.
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of them are straight up creepy.
Like, have you ever heard about close encounters?
Oh yeah, those always freak me out a little.
I know, right? These are cases where people report being really close to a UFO. Sometimes they even claim to have physical contact or experience missing time.
It's like something out of a sci-fi horror movie.
It is. But what's interesting is how many of these stories share similar themes. Feelings of awe and wonder, but also fear and confusion.
I can imagine.
Some people even describe feeling this overwhelming presence, or even having telepathic communication with the beings they encounter.
Telepathic communication. Okay, now we're getting into some seriously fringe territory.
I know it sounds wild,
Yeah.
but there's actually a growing body of research exploring this. The potential link between UFOs and consciousness.
Okay, I'm listening.
Some researchers believe that these UAPs might not be physical objects in the traditional sense.
So, like projections or something?
Maybe, or maybe they're manifestations of consciousness or some kind of interdimensional phenomenon.
Interdimensional phenomenon. Okay, now my brain is officially melting.
I know, it's a lot to take in. And while this is still very speculative, there were some interesting arguments.
Like what?
Well, for example, some people who have close encounters talk about feeling a profound connection to the universe, or experiencing a shift in their perception of reality.
So you're saying encountering a UFO might be more like a spiritual experience?
That's what some researchers are suggesting, and it really raises some big questions. Questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, our place in the universe.
So are we talking about aliens here or something else entirely?
That's the million-dollar question, and I don't think we have a clear answer yet. But the important thing is that we're asking these questions. We're pushing the boundaries of our thinking.
It's almost like we're rediscovering the mystery of the universe, you know?
I love that. That's a perfect way to put it.
So, where do we go from here? What are the next steps in trying to understand this?
Well, that congressional hearing is a big one. If we can get more transparency from the government, access to classified data, open dialogue with experts, that would be huge.
It would be amazing to see what they've been keeping under wraps all these years.
Exactly. And with whistleblowers like David Grush coming forward, it feels like the truth might finally be starting to come out.
I really hope so. Because right now, I have more questions than answers.
And that's a good thing. Curiosity is what drives discovery.
True, true. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
We have sightings, government reports, consciousness, even interdimensional phenomena.
It's been a wild ride, and I think it's safe to say that the UFO mystery is far from over.
Definitely not. But I think we can all agree that the conversation has changed. We're moving beyond the fringe and into the mainstream.
Yeah, it feels like we're finally starting to take this seriously.
Exactly. And hopefully, that will lead to some real answers.
So, to our listeners out there, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and who knows, maybe we'll uncover some amazing truths together.
Keep that curiosity alive.
Yeah.
This is The Deep Dive, signing off.
UFO alien disclosure. UFO alien disclosure. UFO alien disclosure. UFO alien disclosure. Let's go.